episode 12 of the Bandwagon Hockey Podcast. This is a trade reaction, and we are about 24 hours late to this. We wanted to do it last night. Timing didn't work out, but here we are. Jacob Chych, Ottawa Senator. Ryan,
everybody blame Mitchell. Mitchell is the problem here. I tried to call him immediately, literally the second I got the notification, and this guy is just in class. Like, come on. You can't be in class for the Chych trade. Like, how do you allow that to happen?
I'm about to scroll to the conversation that we had over text when you tried to call me, because over the summer, when Dorion made the trade for DeBrincat and signed Giroux and extended Brady and extended Batherson, or I guess those were 2 years ago, but extended Stützle, extended Norris, we always call each other after big Sens news, and it's taken me a little bit to find this, but
there's been a lot of shit going on.
Basically, here it is. So at 6:04 p.m. and I believe the trade broke at 6:04 p.m. So
it was milliseconds.
Ryan calls me. I decline the call because class is starting. Class is starting. I have class from 6 to 9 p.m. every other Wednesday. Class is about to start. I get a call. Decline. I text Ryan. What did the Sens do? Did they get Chykrin? Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Ryan responds, Mitch! Chykrin! And I left class for a good 5 minutes just because I got so many text messages. Awesome. I've straight up got 5 or 6 people who anytime something big in the NHL or Sens specific happens, I get text messages. So I got 5 or 6 messages. I had to leave class because I was I am a distraction to everyone right now. I am going to exit class, go deal with this, and then fortunately I'm going to have to ghost everyone for the next hour, 2.5 hours. Meanwhile, I ended up not ghosting anybody and ended up scrolling Twitter and going over lineups and getting excited and did not retain anything from the class because Jacob Chych is an Ottawa Senator after, a year and a half of trade rumors surrounding this guy?
Yeah, easily. Well, first of all, I don't know how you even stayed in class. I wouldn't have been able to control myself.
So the reason I stayed was because it's a 3-hour lecture, but I was also with people that needed that. I drive home after because it's 9 o'clock at night.
Makes a lot more sense.
So if it was just me, I was gone. But I was with a group, so I couldn't just ditch.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I just think, it was unbelievable because, like you said, we've been talking about this, nonstop for a year and a half, and, there were so many links in this.
The Sens have been one of the teams rumored in on him, 5, 6 different times.
There were so many links in the summer, and I think Pierre Dorion even talked about it a little bit today that, they've coveted this guy for a long time, and he just played the long game and waited it out until he finally got a price he was happy with. And trust me, all of Sens Nation is happy with that price.
And for those listening that don't know the price, although I'd be shocked if anyone.
I guess we haven't even talked about the actual
podcast without knowing the price. Jacob Chych signed for technically 3 playoff runs. We'll see about this year. But 2 years after this one at $4.6 million, I believe his salary jumps up to, I think, $7 or $8 million in the last 2 years. So, not really your typical Ottawa Senators type deal. So you love to see that. And in return, a top, you might have to help me out with the conditions. You might know them better than I do. But in return, it was a top 5 protected first-round pick in 2023. Did I get the protection right?
Yeah. I think it might be 10.
Basically, the pick is going to convey unless Ottawa wins the lottery. Because if Ottawa's pick is going to be between 10 and 16, and if they win a lottery and move up 10 spots, it'll stay with Ottawa, and then it moves to 2024.
Where it would be unprotected.
What's up? Where it would be unprotected. A 2024 second-round pick that becomes a first if Ottawa gets to the Eastern Conference Final this year, in which case they'd probably have to go through Boston or Tampa and Toronto, two of those 3 teams that have to go through, so that pick might be safe. And I think it was a 2026 second-rounder, very off in the future, which seems like teams have been coveting lately.
And the first second-rounder in 2024 is Washington's. from the Connor Brown trade.
That's right, the Connor Brown trade. So that one becomes a Senators unprotected first, I believe, if they go to the Eastern Conference Final. Which, I mean, if they go to the Eastern Conference Final this year,
sure,
I don't care if they ever draft again. You know,
to quote,
there's a lot to unpack here. You go with your quote.
To quote
first
Ross Levitan of Locked On Senators podcast, we don't give a shit about those draft picks. Nobody does.
Oh yeah, those draft picks.
Nobody in Ottawa cares about draft picks anymore. We don't want to hear about the draft ever again. Screw the draft.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about the draft until 2029. No. Like Brady Tkachuk's contract runs till 2029. I don't want to hear about the draft until at least that. And honestly, he'll only be 28 years old at the end by that time. I don't want to hear the trade about the draft again until Brady Tkachuk's 40 years old.
No.
Don't want to hear it.
No,
don't care. So I had like this weird idea. Should we start with the Arizona side and then just like go all Sens for the rest, or do you want to just go Sens? Because I don't hate this deal from Arizona's perspective. It's getting a lot of hate because people look at the fit. We're starting with Arizona's side. It's getting a lot of hate because the rumored ask for so long was 2 firsts plus. I don't know if anyone noticed from when I reefed off those picks. It was not 2 firsts plus. It was 1 first plus a conditional second that could be a first. It won't be, but could be, and another second. And it's getting a lot of hate. Like the original ask from Ottawa was a couple firsts, a guy like Pinto, and a prospect. That's 3 first-round assets. And like Ottawa wasn't able to do that. And it's apparently no other teams were willing to do that either. Not even LA, but we're going to talk about them tomorrow. But this first that Ottawa's giving up, like, let's be realistic. It's going to be maybe at the worst the 18th overall pick.
Yeah.
And at best, it'll be the 11th overall pick or unprotected next year. And so let's just ballpark it and say this pick is going to probably land between 13 and 18, which is a mid-first rounder. And everyone was under the assumption that teams like Los Angeles, Toronto, Boston, Edmonton, teams drafting in the mid to late 20s were going to be in on Jakob Chychrun. That's why the ask was going to be 2 firsts, because I don't know about you, Ryan, but I personally would not trade away the 15th overall pick in exchange for the 26th and 28th overall picks, which is essentially what Arizona did, is instead of pursuing 2 late first rounders, they got a mid first rounder from the Sens.
Yeah, I think the Sens fan in me very early on in the reaction of the trade was definitely screaming fleece. And I still think it's still think it's a fantastic deal for Ottawa, but I don't think that Arizona got the crumbs back that a lot of people think they did. So I completely agree.
Fleece implies Arizona did poorly, but I don't think Arizona did poorly. But like,
okay, I think they did. I don't know. I still think they overplayed their hand and got less than they could have.
They waited too
100%.
long.
And I guess since we're fully diving into the Arizona side of this first, it's been heavily reported now that this was close to the best offer that they could get because they didn't want to take any money back, whether that be retaining on Chychrun or taking bad money back. And that was the reason why Ottawa won him. Like, they were the only team, it sounded like, that had an offer like that.
We're going to try to keep this episode very like Chychrun trade /Sens / I guess we're doing Coyotes right now focused. There's so much like shit going on right now with regards to the Arizona Coyotes. They just acquired Jakub Voracek's contract.
Yeah.
And people are grilling Gary Bettman. Maybe we can get into that a little bit more tomorrow or next time we do sort of like a regular episode, because tomorrow's going to be very much trade deadline review. But Arizona just picked up Jakub Voracek, and long story short, he's going to make $8.25 million against the cap. But since he's injured, insurance is going to cover a lot of that, which means that it's money out of the NHL's pocket, not Arizona's. So basically, Arizona is going to pay almost no money for a guy who counts $8 million against the cap just so that they can meet the floor. And if no one knows this, they have like 5 other players. Like
and people were very confused too, because they were like, okay, why would they want or not want to bring back money on the Jakob Chychrun contract or trade to maximize their return there, but then is willing to do this trade and bring all that money back? Well, it's cash issue, not a cap issue, because with the Voracek trade, they're not actually. I'm pretty sure they're paying him like pennies, maybe to the dollar on his contract, whereas the Chychrun trade, if they retained money, they would have been paying him millions over the next couple of years, or if they took a contract back, they'd be doing the same. Whereas Voracek, I'm pretty sure they're paying like minuscule, whereas insurance is covering like a huge bulk of it.
I'm finding Voracek's like actual money right now. Oh, okay, this is why. Are you ready?
It's massive.
So Voracek's cap hit is 8.25 next year. His base salary is 1.25.
Oh, wow.
His cap hit is 8.25. His base salary is 1.25. It jumps up to 7.5 the next year. Unless, actually, I might be getting that wrong right now. But anyway, like okay, so say that again. Base salary does not mean total salary. So that's actually not the right number, because there's actually a $5 million signing bonus in there for next season, which was actually paid out earlier this season. I've got it all mixed up. Arizona's not paying anywhere near $8.25 million a year for this player. If I'm not mistaken, it looks like they are going to have this guy on the books next year for 7.5 with an $8.25 million cap hit. But a lot of that 7.5 is going to be paid by insurance because of how injured.
Yeah, I think it's literally over like 90% is covered by insurance. So.
Yeah, so probably less than $1 million. And I think the difference is, and I don't want to say I blame Arizona. They look really bad in this spot, but I don't want to say I blame them, even though it's very clear what they're doing with the cap and all this and that. People criticizing them for not wanting to retain on Chychrun, I don't agree with that, because people don't realize that you're not retaining $2.3 million, like half of his cap hit. You're retaining half of his salary too. And I'm going to bring up Chychrun's salary for the next couple of years.
This is also in Arizona's situation too. Like, this is a bare bones franchise. They are not bringing in very much money, hence why they're trying to keep their cash deals at minimum possible while still hitting the cap floor, which is something we're very familiar with here in Ottawa the last couple of years.
So Chychrun's salary next year is $5.4 million, whereas his cap hit is 4.6. It's 4.6 constant. His salary is 5.4, which means Arizona, if retaining half, would have paid 2.7 of that. And then the following year, it's $7 million, which means Arizona would have been paying 3.5. And Arizona can't afford that right now. They literally don't have money. They're bringing in guys that make no actual money, that have high cap hits, so that they don't have to pay their players. Not to mention, Arizona's in a situation right now, with given their spot in their winning cycle or rebuild, if whatever you want to call it, and where they are at the cap, where they can retain salary to broker trades like what Minnesota's doing. If you retain on Chychrun, you lose one of those 3 spots for the next 2+ seasons.
And I'm pretty sure they only have one left.
Because they're retaining on Oliver Ekman-Larsson. So all of a sudden, if you retain on Chychrun, you got 2 spots out of your 3 tied up for the next 2 years.
I'm pretty sure they only have one left. Like, if they did Chychrun, I'm pretty sure they would have been maxed out. For the rest of this year, retaining on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For the rest of this year, I think it would have been maxed out, because they just retained on Bukestad. But I'm going to go
now
the
if
Coyotes.
They retained on Bukestad. I haven't even seen the full trade on that. Then they would be.
I haven't seen the return. I just know that they.
Then they would be maxed out for this year. Like, they wouldn't be able to do another.
Oh, because they did Patrick Kane.
Yeah.
So it would have been Chychrun, Kane, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, which means they wouldn't have been able to retain on Bukestad. But then also, they would only be retaining on Kane through the rest of this year. But then next year, they would have started the season with Ekman-Larsson and Chychrun, same as with the following season, which just limits Arizona's ability to help broker trades and accumulate assets. Plus, he's making 4.6. That's not an asset you should have to retain salary on.
Not at all.
It's one of the best contracts in the league. So I get where Arizona's coming from. Quite frankly, LA really dropped the ball. I don't know if it's LA fans going after Arizona for not retaining or what. Jacob Chychrun should be a Los Angeles King. Let's get that out of the way. But he's not. And so let's talk about it from the Sens perspective, because we're kind of in agreement. It's not that bad for Arizona. We don't blame them for not retaining on Chychrun. Meanwhile, Pierre Dorion stuck to his guns. I mean, he could have bit. Like, everybody wanted him to last summer. Nobody would have blamed him if he would have traded 2023, 2024 firsts. Ridley Gregg, people would have been upset, but they would have understood. Right after trading for DeBrincat, signing Giroux, extending Stützle, extending Norris, like, nobody would have blamed him. Trading for Cam Talbot, nobody would have batted an eyelash if Dorion met Bill Armstrong's price. And he chose not to. He waited him out. And it just so happens that every other team waited him out. Arizona started to feel the pressure, and the price came down. And, Ryan, I want to get your initial take. I mean, I think everybody knows the vibe of what your take is about to be, but I just want to know, maybe preface it by telling the listeners, like, are you more or less excited than you were for the DeBrincat trade?
Oh, more. I think way more. And I think it's more so that this has just been talked about for so long. And, like, not only just the top 4D specific thing, like, that's been hammered into the ground, but just Chychrun related too. Like, I feel like Chychrun's been at very least loosely attached to this team for the whole 18 months he's been on the block. So
at least since the summer anyway, when it really started to pick up.
For sure. But, like, I don't know. It's just crazy for it to finally come to fruition. I think the fact that I finally saw those words, like Jakob Chychrun to the Ottawa Senators, is just it didn't feel real. Like, whereas the DeBrincat one, it was just like out of left field. It was like, whoa, sick! We got a really cool goal scorer. But this one is like, thank God, finally, right? Yeah.
It almost felt more of like a both elation and relief, because, like, for the longest time, Chychrun had been connected to the Sens, and I was just getting sick of it. There were no DeBrincat to the Sens rumors until it happened. That thing was out of left field. We were talking like Kevin Fiala for the longest time, and then all of a sudden, Alex DeBrincat is going to the Sens.
Kevin Fiala was my number one choice for so long. Like, I wasn't.
We didn't even know DeBrincat was available.
I didn't even consider DeBrincat, like, not even once.
No, nobody had any idea really until Kyle Davidson was kind of like, "Yeah, this is coming down to studs." But, okay, let's maybe get into the logistics now. Like, Jakob Chychrun's 24 years old. Oh, wait, no, let's start with this. Apparently, do you want to talk lineup, or do you want to talk the fact that apparently Ottawa is now a destination franchise?
I want to talk destination franchise.
Okay, so I wasn't sure which one might be better to wrap up the show with. So, apparently, Jacob, was it his agent? Do you want to give the story? I think you sent me the tweet, so you might know it better than I do.
So essentially his agent was on TSN 1200 Ottawa this morning with a... Like, if you have not listened to the full thing yet, I would very recommend you go back and listen to it, because it's highly insightful about the whole process. And it's just very cool to hear an agent kind of talk that frank about a situation. But essentially...
Can you listen to TSN 1200 after the fact?
Oh, I listened to this live, but...
No, but can you listen to it after? Like, do they record it and post it? Yeah, they post it
as like a podcast,
Okay.
But yeah, like, at the very end of the interview, he kind of wrapped up the host wrapped up by asking, how do you think the perception of Ottawa and the franchise has changed in, like, the last calendar year? And he essentially answered, like, it's a 180. Like, players want to come here now because it's a team that looks like they're going to succeed very soon. And he essentially credited, like, Brady Tkachuk with being a huge part of that turnaround.
The culture
change that is being felt, like, league wide. This is a big name agent who is saying this on the radio, and it's just very cool to hear from what we've witnessed in the last couple of years. It's very not. And it's especially franchise in the last couple of years.
No. And it's especially cool just to see, like, such a significant trade be so universally accepted by media. Maybe, like, minus Greg Wyshynski, but, like, fuck that guy. Like, everyone's obsessed with this trade for Ottawa. And everyone's like, Scott Wheeler, who's like, athletic Leafs. He's like, the Sens are a wagon. Everyone's posting stuff about, like, watch out for Ottawa in the wild card spot. Sean Gentile in the and Haley Salvian, both of them in their trade grades, which they, like, the Athletic does for every trade. They were like, this is going to help Ottawa so much in future playoff races for the next 2 years. But also, don't forget, they're not out of this one. Like, just little things like that Sens fans have been really clamoring for, like saying, we're not out of it. We're not out of it. Dom's model had the Sens at like 2% as recently as last week. And now they're up at close to, depending where you look, probably between 10 and 15% to make it.
Yeah, this is just a double whammy because, like, yeah, it helps with a potential playoff run in the here and now. But, like, this team is only going to get compounded, like, exponentially better over the next 2 years with all the young talent.
Yeah.
And and he's just signed for the next 2 years under $5 million. Yeah. Like, and he's 24. Yeah. Like, he turns 25 later in the month. But, like, it's absurd.
And the other thing that's absurd, too, is that the DeBrincat was 24, too. Like, Dorian is shelling out these assets for guys that are arguably, like, I don't know what people think prime is now. I think like 23 to 28 is a prime. So like 24, 25 years old, or like these guys are in their prime when Dorian's acquiring them.
Over the last, like, I don't know, I guess we'll go year or maybe half a year. Out of like forwards and defensemen available with their contract situations, like, could you have picked a better two for this team?
No.
Like, I don't think so.
No, you could not. You could not.
They're perfect.
Like, think about all of the different trades that have been made in the past year. Oh, I'm about to ask like a genuine question. Can you name a better winger or a better defenseman that has been traded in the past year than the two players that Ottawa has acquired?
Depends what you think of Timo Meier, but probably not.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Meier. Yeah, Meier's probably a little bit better than DeBrincat. I kind of forgot about him. But there's not a better defenseman.
No, not even close.
And as of the time of the trade, maybe this is like some sort of hindsight because prior to DeBrincat being traded, I bet you people thought DeBrincat was a better player than Meier.
100%.
And at the time DeBrincat was traded, he was probably recognized as a better player than Meier is right now. 40 goal scorer, you know. And so maybe their stock, like DeBrincat's stock has gone down, Meier's stock has gone up. But I don't think Meier's stock is as high as DeBrincat's was in the summer in terms of like reputation league-wide.
That's a very fair argument to that too.
So it just depends on how you want to look at it. So you can argue Meier, but I would say in the past year, Ottawa has acquired at minimum two of the three best players to move teams in the past year.
Yeah, I would, without having
and both of them are 24 years old. Without having a
list in front of me, I would want to agree. Yeah.
Both of which being 24 years old.
For sure. Like the best situations possible, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so it's like, I don't know. And no picks, no players, no prospects.
Part about this.
All you're doing is trading away lottery tickets. You're trading lottery tickets for legitimate 24-year-old all-star caliber players.
And like, I guess it's crazy. Like, you talk about the draft picks too. We were clamoring for so long for this man to trade even just one draft pick for help. And over the last year, he's moved out 2 firsts, like 4 or 5 seconds, I want to say, just to get like these 2 players essentially. Because we can talk about the Zaitsev thing. There
were 2 for Chychrun and 2 for Zaitsev.
Because that essentially made this.
You can kind of loop the whole
possible. Yeah, that made this possible.
Yeah. Yeah, this trade doesn't happen without that opened up space.
And this makes more sense too. Why like Zaitsev wasn't included in this because they didn't want to take the money back. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was my thing. I was like, everyone was like, why? Everyone was like, oh, Ottawa's going to go get Chychrun now. Oh, Ottawa's going to go get Chychrun now. And I'm like, guys, I feel like it all would have been part of the same trade if that was a possibility. And I guess in the past week, a lot must have changed, which I believe it did because like the ask clearly came down and Arizona felt the pressure. And even though they would have had the player signed for another 2 years after this season, there was no chance he was staying in Arizona past the deadline. That situation would have been too awkward. It would have dragged on too long. It would have become untenable for either team or player
100%.
if he'd have stuck.
It would have been even more of an embarrassment that's already going on there. So,
yeah, and so I'm just so excited. And as we record this, it's 5:55 p.m. Is Chychrun playing tonight? He is in. Is that confirmed? Because I saw a quote saying like he's gonna skate and make a decision later.
So
tonight.
I haven't seen anybody 100% say he's in, but the team released a little hype video of him walking in with the boys. So like, I feel like he's in.
Oh yeah. Okay, he'll play. I'm just gonna do a quick scroll through Twitter. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. The Sens tweeted he's here 42 minutes ago, and it's like number on the helmet, stitching on the jersey, like all that. And he showed up to the rink in a suit with the team. So that's probably what you were just referencing. Wow. Dallas just acquired Max Domi.
I did see that right before we hopped on.
Cool. Okay, let's get into like the fit, just because I kind of want to wrap this up, keep it short. Where do you think? Okay, there's a difference between where you think and where you want Jacob Chychrun to slot in on this D. So Ryan, right off the bat, what do you want this top six to look like? Right now,
I think I want this top six to look like Sanderson, Chychrun, Chabot, Zub, Brandstrom, JBD. That's how I want it to look.
Okay. How do you think it's going to look tonight?
I think tonight it might look like...
For Chychrun's debut as a Senator, for those listening to this later.
It's so hard just because of, like, from what I've gathered, he, like, barely got any sleep last night. He came in on a red eye. They want to be careful with him. Yeah. So I don't know if they're going to throw him on the right side right away because he hasn't really played any of that. Tonight, I think he might even just go on the third pairing and they move Brandstrom over to the right side. I think that's what they might do tonight.
That's what I would do. I would go Chabot, Zub, like Sanderson, and I guess Hamonic, and then Chychrun, Brandstrom. I think that should be top six tonight. Keep the minutes light, like 15 minutes for Chychrun. Like just settle him in.
Get out of there. And get out of there healthy.
Get out of there healthy. Come home. And maybe even do the same thing. Like maybe wait until you can practice with him on the right side. Because they're not going to practice before Saturday.
He didn't skate with the team today because he was napping. He's not played for 3 weeks. He's just straight up not played for 3 weeks. So there's going to be some rust too. They got to...
So I'm hoping that like fans and stuff don't overreact to Chychrun. Like I don't think he's going to touch 20 minutes tonight.
That being said, though, he's fired up and ready to go. Like he did not have to fly out to New York to be here for this game.
He's also a physical monster. Like that guy's not out of shape either. So who knows? Honestly, he might just be
coming in with adrenaline and
who fucking knows?
Have the best game of his life. Who knows?
This is what I think, and what I think this is what I think should happen. This is what I think should happen. I think for maybe the next week until Chychrun's really comfortable in the setting, you've practiced, whatnot, you have Chabot, Sanderson, and Chychrun each on their own D pair, but you have Chychrun and Sanderson on PP2 because we know Chabot's not coming off of PP1. If he was going to, it would have happened already. Chychrun and Sanderson on power play 1, get Broussard the fuck off of that power play. Or no, get Joseph
whoever
off
it
of
is at the moment.
Someone. Get someone off. And basically, you have like Chabot 24 minutes, Sanderson 22 minutes, Chychrun 22 minutes between power play, penalty kill, all this and that. Because Chychrun kills penalties too.
That's the other thing here. But then, I never want to see Thomas Chabot play over 25 minutes again. I don't want to see it.
If he ever does, it's the biggest waste.
I'm gonna lose my fucking mind.
He's highest paid. He's the third best defenseman on this team.
Yeah, probably.
Because, like, unless you're trying to tell me that you think he's better than Sanderson, because Chychrun's better than Chabot.
Yeah, you're right.
Because
I never thought about that.
I'm pretty sure we're both in agreement that Sanderson's better than
I never thought
Chabot.
about that until now, but I think I would agree. Like, overall two-way game, I don't think it's probably close. He's the third best.
No. And I think, and what's cool about this too, this is like a total side note, I think Sanderson's game is very similar to Chychrun's. I see those players very similarly. In the minimal amount of time I've been able to watch Chychrun, just because he's been in Arizona, obviously I'll be able to have a better opinion on their comparison now that they're playing on the same team.
I saw somebody describe Ottawa's top 4 now as Chabot is all offense, Zub is all defense, and the two others are hybrid two-way guys, and it's so cool. I love it.
And that's what I want it to be. So I was going to say I want Shabbat, Zub, Sanderson, and Hamonic, and then Chychrun, Brandstrom tonight. Maybe for the next week, get Chychrun comfortable, get him practicing on the right side, but playing on the left. And then once he's comfortable, you go Shabbat, Zub, Sanderson, Chychrun, which is going to be an expected goals monster. And on the third unit, you've got, I guess just for this year, Brandstrom and Hamonic, Brandstrom, Holden, whatever. But then long term, you do like Brandstrom, JBD, Brandstrom, Clevin, whatever. But that's
Isn't it crazy what a difference this D looks like when you, 1, move out Zaitsev, 2, move down Hamonic, and 3, move out Holden. Like, even without inserting Chychrun, you do those 3 things, it looks infinitely better. And then you put in Chychrun, like, this is a legit...
Yeah.
Like, they just they transformed their decor in, like, a week.
Next year, once Sanderson starts getting some national attention, this is going to be seen as one of the better top 4s.
Oh, yeah. There's no question. In my mind, there's no question.
And I'm looking forward to seeing Shabbat consistently get to play with Zub, because when he got to play with Zub for an extended look last year, he was so good. And this year, like, it's been a rotating cast because Zub's been injured. So he's like, DJ's been putting Zaitsev up there. JBD's not where he maybe should be as a 23-year-old first-round pick. And he's been up there with Shabbat. And it hasn't worked great.
And I don't think we're going to see JBD for the rest of the year, to be honest, unless we get an injury, which I don't love, but I get it. Like, they're just going to ride out Holden in that third spot, Hamonic in that third spot, most likely, which I don't hate. I like Hamonic. I do. He just makes too much money, and I think JBD should be getting games, but I wouldn't mind if they bring him back on a min deal next year to be the 7th, but
I don't hate Hamonic as a 6th defenseman or
neither
a 7th
do I.
defenseman.
Not at all.
Because, like, Sanderson loves him. I hate referring to the shit, but, like, he hits hard and he's not scared of people. And you need a couple guys like that. It can't always be your captain.
I honestly think he would be really good and efficient in a third pairing role. I really do.
Yeah, and so hopefully he gets us an extended look with Brandstrom, because I think that could be decent.
That pairing will be great, to be honest.
As a third pairing. And yeah, it's just it's crazy. Like, you get rid of a negative player in Zaitsev, you bring in a plus player in Chychrun, and it moves everyone down. It's just crazy how much adding one player changes the depth and the outlook of a unit.
It fixed literally. I don't know. We'll see how this fits in DJ's system. That is the one, I guess, thing we'll kind of hold out for here to see how it works out tonight and over the next couple of games. But oh my God, I'm so excited to see it.
And it's funny too. So I think this is going to be my last point. I don't know what else you have, but like, I don't know how long DJ is going to be in Ottawa. I think he's earned the job for next year. I think at this point he's not getting fired. Just because of how the team's playing, unless they collapse down the stretch. But I think Chychrun is going to be a DJ guy.
Yeah.
It seems like he's going to be a DJ guy. Too. Like, it seems like if maybe Shabbat wasn't in the picture, DJ would ride Chychrun. So I'm hoping that DJ, like, meshes with Chychrun and it works out well, so that DJ will learn to not put 27 minutes, half the game, on Thomas Shabbat's shoulders, and just let his best defenseman play as much as they should and not overwork.
Yeah, and there's been a ton of criticism to Shabbat this year, and rightfully so. He has not been like he's been okay offensively like he has been in the past, but his huge errors at terrible times have been way more apparent this year than ever before. And I'm just hoping that Chychrun coming in takes that pressure off him a little bit. Like, I don't know if he's feeling the pressure to really carry the load back there right now. Like, he shouldn't, because he's not even the best defenseman on the team, in my opinion, before Chychrun comes in. But maybe he feels that way because Sanderson's still a rookie and this can take some load off. I don't know. But it just feels like he's doing too much out there.
Yeah, I agree. But you know what? It's a good problem to have.
Oh, yeah.
And I am so excited to see Jacob Chychrun wearing a Sens jersey. Yeah, I don't really have anything much else to add. We've now gone 35 minutes on one trade.
I got a little bit more to go, too, if that's okay. Just like 3 more minutes, maybe. Just want to bring up the fact, too, that like Chychrun is hyped about this, too. Not only the fact that he is coming into a really good situation, like a young contending team in the next couple of years, he's also kind of an Ottawa guy, which is pretty cool. Like, his dad grew up in Ottawa, spent a lot of his time here now. I think he's in Florida, but he still has some family around. Like, his grandfather is still in Ottawa. His sister recently relocated back to Ottawa. So he's got family in the area, and it's pretty unreal to think about, like, Giroux and Chychrun just both kind of being Ottawa guys, both spending their summers in Ottawa, and now they're on the Sens. Like, it's just pretty unreal.
It is unreal. It's pretty surreal feeling to be a Sens fan, and it's almost like our fan base and the franchise is kind of the envy of the league right now, because Dorion keeps making really shrewd moves and getting big names, and teams just get jealous of that stuff because not a lot of franchises are run well. And don't get me wrong, Ottawa was not run well for a good 10 years there, but man, oh man, are they working it right now.
One last thing, too, I'll bring up on the DJ thing that I just remembered was, I'll put it this way. I feel Pierre has very much earned himself at least one more year. He's done everything he can do to improve this roster now. So I feel like he's going to stay, and I think because he's staying, DJ's staying. Because
it'd be a shame if ownership cleared house after all of the work Dorion has put into this team in the last year, finally without having chains around his ankles.
Yeah, and I think DJ is Pierre's guy. Like, I really do. I don't think he's going to fire him unless something goes terribly wrong. I really don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. All right. We are now 37 minutes into our Jakob Chychrun trade analysis. That should do it for this sort of spur-of-the-moment, although 24 hours late, episode of the Bandwagon Hot Hockey Podcast. Ryan, hit that outro. It's an exciting time. We've got a lot of trades to go through tomorrow. We'll try to keep it a little shorter than 37 minutes per trade.
Chychrun versus Kane at MSG tonight. You ready?